Handshakes and hugs from above. Welcome to the series premiere of We Don't Talk Hoops with Arden Franklyn. I am your host, Arden Franklyn. This is a Is That Arden production. Shout out to our good friends at 24 New York for allowing us the space and these lovely kicks that you're seeing in our hands. Man, the guest to the left of me, this is someone who, besides being a very dear friend of mine in this incredible space of women's basketball and content creation, she's someone that's wrapping up a banner year. You know, you got a couple all-star appearances under your belt. You got you an all-league team appearance on the way. You got a deep playoff run. And seriously, this is a special guest that when you think about it, right? With her Sports with Aliyah platform, we're talking about north of 200K followers across social who are both entertained and informed about the state of women's basketball and sports as a whole. Whether it's seeing lovely content between players and fans, you're gonna get that from Sports with Aliyah. Whether you're talking about seeing a player who comes to the WNBA draft, supporting their teammates, and then their name is called by the commissioner, you're seeing that with Sports with Aliyah. Or you wanna talk about just an incredible interview that shut down the WNBA draft with the one and only Paige Beckers, you're seeing that with Sports with Aliyah. This is someone who's literally one of the best creators in the game, does an incredible job telling stories and facts about the game that we love, and she's a very dear friend of mine. We go way back, Columbia women's basketball to covering games courtside with the New York Liberty. I'm very excited to have this guest on our show. Aliyah Funschelle, how you doing?
Wow, that was the best intro I think anyone's ever given me.
I try.
Thank you for that. I'm so excited for you and just so excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I noticed you got a very unique sneaker in your hand. And folks that are paying attention to the show, this is going to be a thing throughout this series, right? If we don't talk hoops, we will be holding up lovely sneakers in our hands that best describe our personality. What makes that particular shoe your personality?
Well, what really stood out to me about these Kobe's are the colors.
Yeah.
I mean, my last name's Funschelle. I like to think that I'm pretty fun and it's a fun shoe. But also the colorway reminds me of both of the universities I attended. So this bright yellow reminds me of Wichita State, which is where I went to undergrad, and then the blue for Columbia. So I feel like it represents my journey in a shoe. And I love Kobe, so.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. That is a great reasoning why. For me, I went with the Lost and Found ones. You know, this is the first episode, the first of many. This is a classic. You know, I want to live up to the standard of excellence that Mr. Jeffrey Jordan put together. And I like these. I thought this was a good tone setter. I almost went for another Jordan, but I felt like, you know what? You only get to do something for the first time once.
Oh, yeah.
That's so I got to go with the ones.
Definitely.
I got to go with the ones. Aliyah, to get into it, right? How does a Midwest girl like yourself from Wichita, Kansas, get into basketball?
Wow. I mean, everything kind of just leads me back to my dad, honestly. And we're originally from New York, and then we moved to Kansas when I was a baby. But my dad, New Yorker through and through. And I feel like all New Yorkers love basketball. And I've literally been this height since middle school. So basketball has always been my favorite sport. I mean, I tried everything, dance, cheerleading, soccer, didn't like any of it except for basketball. So grew up playing and also grew up as a huge Knicks fan. And then in the Midwest, college basketball, a huge thing. Yeah. So I went to Wichita State with, right after Ron Baker, Fred VanVleet, Final Four run. And that's how my career in basketball started. And we can definitely touch more on that. But I mean, my love for the game has always been there from day one, honestly.
Now, I got to ask you, you played a little bit. Mm-hmm. What was your game like? Who was your player comp?
Okay. Oh, player comp. Okay. So I love Steph Dolson so much.
Big mama.
Yeah. And although
champ.
I am nowhere near her height, I feel like in middle school, that's how I felt. And in high school. But the thing about Steph is she can shoot the ball. She has a pretty shot.
We saw that up close when she was here.
Absolutely. There were games where she had 4 threes in a row and she's the reason they won. And so I would say I love my post moves, but I could shoot a pretty little shot sometimes. So I would say Steph.
Hey, listen, we was at that New York Liberty training camp.
Yeah.
For the media, they put us through that workout. Aliyah was hitting the mid range. I stepped out of retirement real quick. I had something to prove, man, with Tosh and Coach Sandy there. I had to lock in.
Yeah.
For you, right? With you going to Wichita State, you making that decision to go into the content game, creating content, right? Especially as a reporter, right? And I think that's something that for folks to know, right? Obviously we now know Aliyah to be this elite content creator, but you have a reporter's background, a journalism background. What made you get into journalism and wanted to be a reporter?
That's a great question. I mean, even in elementary school, middle school, high school, I loved all things like electives that were journalism. So broadcast, news magazine, yearbook. And I didn't like sitting at my desk, like doing our little pages. I would
Yeah.
always sneak off to the lunchroom with my press pass to interview
Mhm.
people about
Yeah.
random things. And so I love just the storytelling and connecting with people. And even in high school, I started an anonymous Twitter page
Yeah.
covering my high school sports.
Nice. I
And
love
like,
that.
I
I
just
love
like
that.
fell in love with it. And then obviously in college, like I didn't even realize that sports could really be a career in this way. I thought it would have to be the traditional news route of maybe working for a local
Yeah.
station and having to talk about news other than sports. And I gravitated towards the sports part of journalism and the storytelling and the people.
This is one of my favorite questions to ask, my peers who have been fortunate and consistent with interviews. Do you remember your first interview?
Ooh, I do remember my first
Okay.
interview, and especially my first sports interview.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, obviously I'm not counting high school because like those were my peers, but this was actually a very pivotal moment for me. So there was a player at Wichita State,
Yeah.
and he got surprised with a full scholarship. He was a walk-on.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed him, and instead of interviewing him with my audio device, I took it as a video and then did a clip, put it on Twitter, and linked the story back.
Awesome.
And that's where I first realized, wow, social media can really drive views to like the stories I'm telling. So yeah, his name's J.R. Simon, great guy.
Let's go.
But
Shout
yeah,
out to JR.
walk on. I love the walk ons and telling those underdog stories.
Yeah. And, I want to get to sports with Aliyah, just because, along with following, of course, the Aliyah Funschelle brand, right? I too pay close attention to sports with Aliyah, with how you've been
Thanks.
building up that brand and telling those stories. What inspires you to create your own platform, right? Because that is something that for people in 2025, that has not become the norm, right? Like people
Yeah.
think about, hey, let's create a social channel, let's create a brand. But like a few years ago to even when I first started, what feels like many moons ago, that wasn't always the thought to come up with your own independently owned and like ran brand.
Oh,
What
yeah.
made you come up with Sports with Aliyah?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. Nothing drives me more than people who doubt me. And in college, I was doubted quite frequently by some of the people that I worked for and saying that social media and covering sports in this way wasn't professional and that that it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And I believed so much in myself in the way that I could portray these sports stories, that I wanted to tell these stories in the way that I wanted to and the way I knew how.
Yeah.
And so I was like, honestly, the people that consume my content consume it because of me and the way I'm presenting it, not because of what website it comes from. And so in 2018, I was sitting in the cafeteria of my college and I was on InDesign and I'm like, I'm going to make my own logo, my own website. I'm going to cover all of my bases. I'm going to make sure I can still get a credential to the Wichita State sports. And that's how I started it. But I'm very fueled by people that, don't believe in me. And I love the love, but I also thrive off of the doubt. And that's how it all started.
You could call it doubt, but just like me and my good friend Zach will say, we love to, fuel off hate.
Yeah.
Hate.
Yeah.
But also too, I want to get into a quick side question before we move to the next topic, right? Credentialing, because man, I feel like more than ever before, people now understand what it is to get a credential to go to games.
Yeah.
We both have been very fortunate to be credentialed. It's people often say like, Arden, like I see you at all these games, how are you at all these games? I'm like, credentialing. I'm very fortunate, like I know you are, to be at a point where it's like, yeah, like 99.9% of the games and stuff you see us at, we were invited or got a credential. To someone out there, right, who's just starting their career in sports media and they hear about credentials, but they want to know how to go about it, how to pursue one. What would be your best piece of advice to them?
Ooh, that's great. It is really hard, and I'm glad that more organizations are starting to recognize new media
Absolutely.
along with traditional media. I think that professionalism is key. As much as it is fun to make like funny and fun social media content, I feel like a lot of the creators that do get credentialed have an air of professionalism about them.
Absolutely.
And so that's in the way you conduct yourself and meeting people in real life. There's obviously a lot of like people that look down on content creators. So you kind of got to prove those people wrong and just be very professional, write a really well-worded email. But also for people that it might be hard to get credentialed. I was buying tickets to Liberty games in
Mm-hmm.
2021 and 2022 just to cover the games,
Yeah.
even from my seat. And I mean, the tickets weren't as expensive as they are now,
Yeah.
but like if there's
It's,
a will, there's a
we
way.
remember them.
Yeah. And I think also when it comes to credentialing, you have to show some sort of proof of
Yeah,
concept or idea or
you do.
stuff that you have out there that, work examples.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you said that because I'll add to that as well. Like I remember for me at the beginning of my career covering games,
Hmm.
I remember, of course, right, have those NBA dreams. I want to cover the Knicks. I want to cover whatever. But like early on, I realized like, man, I got to get in where I fit in. You know, I got to
Yeah.
go to the places that don't have that coverage. And I remember literally my first team that I covered was the Westchester Knicks, the
Yeah.
NBA G League. And, you know, if you know me, you know, I'm a 914 kid. So I happen to live like 10 minutes away from the county center. So
Hmm.
I was going to those games. I remember one of my first interviews being with Langston Galloway, who was the first call
Wow.
up in Westchester Knicks history to play for the Knicks. And
It's
then 2 years
crazy.
later, I connected with the Columbia Lions. And then I still have the email where I emailed Vincent Nowicki, who was used
Wow.
to be the longtime PR contact for the New York Liberty. Right.
Hmm.
So this is 2014 to 2016. And I tell people like, yo, you have to get in where you fit in. Or like, hey,
Yeah.
New York City street ball, go to those games,
Yep.
build those relationships. So I think you just gave some incredible insight as to how people could go about credentialing and build off of that, right?
Hmm.
I want to now get to with you, Aliyah, right? You make that big girl decision to come to New York City.
Oh yeah.
What inspired that move to go to New York City and to continue building your career the way that you've done?
This city has been calling me from day one. I mean, my family, like I said, they're very New York. My dad is, slick back hair, tattoos, all that.
Yeah.
And like and also in the way they raised me was very New
Mm-hmm.
York, especially compared to Kansas, where people get married very young, and there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that. But I just never wanted that life for myself, and thankfully, I had parents that never tried to force that upon me.
Yeah.
And I mean, what really got me here was grad school. I wanted to go to Columbia since I was 10, and then went there for my master's in sport management.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the vehicle that got me here. But now I never want to leave.
Yeah.
And just the energy in this city of you can really do anything you put your mind to. And
Yep.
the people here are amazing. Like, obviously, we became fast friends. And
Yep.
just having people surrounded by people that all have big goals. Everyone's a hustler.
Yeah.
Everyone's like working multiple jobs to like chase after their dreams. And I love that. And that's honestly like what drew me here and kept me here.
Yeah. And what are some of your earliest memories of building your community here? Because, you know, so many people, like it's always been, are moving to New York, but it feels like more and more people are coming to New York. And I
Hmm.
know you've gotten that question. I've gotten that question from people who moved here, like, yo, how can I meet people? How can I build my community or how can I build my tribe? Like, what do you remember from those early days of being in New York, right? Wanted to meet people within your world. And what would you tell those that are going to be in the same position?
Yeah, just showing up and saying yes to different opportunities. Like I remember, like you said, going to the street ball games. Like,
Mm.
what's this girl from Kansas doing at Dykeman, like at
Yeah.
2 in the morning, like just hanging out with people. But you meet people, and after the games, we just sit around talking and, just like really just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to strike up a conversation with a stranger. And just, I mean, there's so much going on in this city. So just I did a lot of solo dates when I first got here. And then
Yep.
every time I'd go out solo, I would honestly meet a random person and,
Yep.
and connect with them. Like one of my earliest friends in the city, I met because I was giving out my business cards at a sports bar. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it, like drunk sports
Yeah.
fans, they need sports content.
They
So
do.
here's my business card. And
They do.
turns out like he worked at the Garden and like then invited me to like a concert. And then
Mhm.
it's just like that's how things work around here.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, to bring it present day, right? Leah, you're at a point where, you know, I'm not just saying this because you're here or because you're a dear friend of mine, but like, you're literally buzzing right now in
Thank
the world
you.
of sports with content. Like, I kid you not, it feels like it is a weekly occurrence where I see your content not only go viral, but it's
Mhm.
literally being redistributed and reposted by the bleachers, the overtimes, etc. For you, is it still a bit surreal in regards to like, wow, this piece of content that I made from just my pure love of the game is like at that point of like, yo, millions of people are seeing it. It's creating conversation. It's getting you into these rooms. Like, what is it like for you these days?
Yeah, it's surreal's a good word for it, especially because a lot of the brands distributing my content now, I have gotten rejected from like an entry level job at some of these places, and all those rejections led me to where I am now, to where now they're using my content on their
Yeah.
platforms. And also, I think it's crazy because it's a lot of the women's sports content that does go viral. And
Yes.
a few years ago, it was going viral for the wrong reasons because it would
Mm-hmm.
get so many hate comments.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just in a spot where I'm very happy that it's the content that is needed out there and people want to see. And it is very surreal though to see it get picked up and redistributed.
Mm-hmm. What was it about the WNBA that not only just caught your attention as a fan, but within your career as a reporter, as a creator, that made you be like, man, this is not just something I'm just gonna cover when it's in season, but it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be a part of my identity, and I love covering it and telling these stories. Because again, just to give you your flowers,
Thank you.
Aliyah is one of the few people in the space that I will like happily say I study and watch closely.
Thanks.
I've formed new ideas off of watching your content and of course our
Mm-hmm.
conversations, and I just love how in a way similar to a player on the court, you're literally a 3-level scorer with your content. Like I've seen you come up with these incredible moments of capturing players interacting with the fans, or you
Mm-hmm.
somehow come up with this funny ass clip that no one would think of from the game,
Uh-huh.
right? You do these incredible green screen storytelling where you might talk about a player from a mid-major
Mm-hmm.
that should make a WNBA team, and then of course you can still go back and tell these serious stories about the league. So what were your origins with the W, and why have you stuck around with it?
Yeah, I mean, growing up playing basketball and being a girls basketball player, I've always adored, these players, especially UConn. I mean, I was in high school when Stewie was out there winning 4
Yeah.
championships with UConn, and
Yeah.
I love Sue Bird, like love all of them. And so I knew I wanted to be in the space of covering the WNBA, but I didn't just want to insert myself
Mm-hmm.
without any knowledge. So when I was at Columbia, anytime we could choose a league to do a project about or
Yeah.
do research about, I would choose the WNBA so that I can really learn it top to bottom, and not just the players, but like the procedures, the
Yes.
CBA, stuff like that.
Yes.
So that I felt comfortable and I truly could show people I know what I'm talking about. And I can actually pinpoint when I really wanted to go all in. It was at a Just Women's Sports event in, I think, 2021. And it was also one of the first times I got recognized from social media, like while
Nice.
being in New York. And it was really cool. But I got to meet a few players. Like I met Dee Dee Richards and
Yeah.
Benijah, and
Yes,
meeting them
Queen
in
Bee.
real life. I'm like, these women are phenomenal. They're
Yes.
so like multifaceted. I mean, Dee Dee and Benijah like slay, like literally, I hate using the word slay, but like literally like they eat down with their makeup, their
Yeah.
outfits. And I'm just like, wow, they're so awesome on the court and off the court. And I really just saw like a future for myself that night at that event, that
Yeah.
wow, I could really, really go all in on this.
Do you remember one of your first WNBA player interviews?
Oh, okay. So I can't remember the very first like interview, but I did get a job in 2022 with WNBA Top Shot. Like,
Mhm.
and I have to credit my old boss Carrie. I was working on NBA Top Shot, and she's like,
Of
Aliyah, if
course,
you want to
yeah.
run WNBA Top Shot, you have like my full approval to really just make it your own and
Mhm.
go all in. And one of the things we did with W Top Shot was we went to Sylvia Fowles' retirement game,
Yes.
and we hosted a dinner with her the night before her retirement. And that was my first time really like one-on-one with a player and getting
Mhm.
content of a player from like up close and not just from
Mhm.
afar. And I love Syl, and that will definitely stick out as like one of like my first and favorite.
Yeah. Man, people are often surprised when I tell them a lot of my best interviews have come with
Mhm.
WNBA players.
Yeah.
Like I still remember my first. My first was with Sugar Rogers.
Wow.
My first was with Sugar Rogers, and I remember within my first year, I was from the man above blessed to. I remember interviewing Maya Moore for the first time,
Wow.
and like Candace Parker and BG, and
Yeah.
it was so surreal because I think similar to what you was talking about, right? When you get into the like covering the W, you realize very quickly how unique this
Mhm.
opportunity is. Where I realized I was like, every night I get to literally interview not just the best players in the world, but winners. Like
Yeah.
she won freaking 4 straight national championships. She's a gold medal. She was on the cover of Sports
Crazy.
Illustrated. And, you know, for you, Aliyah, right? You are truly a staple in WNBA coverage. For you, how does it feel like just knowing that like people do look towards you like, yo, for my WNBA coverage, I'm gonna go on motherfucking TikTok and then I need to like see what Aliyah posted from the game last night, right? Because you went from someone who just, all right, you love basketball, you love the W, let me get into it, do my research, and now you're truly a staple in the space.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I still have imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, I'm like, really? Like this, it's crazy. And the more people I meet at games that say they follow me, like it's just very, very crazy to me. But it's so cool because I don't know. I feel like still I'm just like girl from the Midwest and like and sometimes like the imposter syndrome comes from the fact that I don't work for a publication or a big brand. I don't work for an ESPN or for Yahoo Sports. Like I literally am just myself and that's what makes me the most proud is like that I am just doing this on my own and I've had incredible partners along the way, like different brands, and the Connecticut Sun were like the first team to give me a chance and have me come out as a creator. So I think like that's I think what I'm most like proud of is like I'm not part of a big organization.
How have you navigated over the last couple years? And we've all been there too. Like if you're a creator in the space, you're gonna navigate wanting to build your own, but also like, all right, I think I'm gonna need that 9 to 5, right? Like how have you navigated that pathway?
Yeah, I think like I've had the 9 to 5 like safety net of it all, and for me it was finding a job that would allow me to still be myself and still post and be creative and not be intimidated by that. So I do have to give a lot of flowers to Columbia Athletics. Like they were like, that was like my main job for like the past 2.5 years as I was building my own brand. And they never tried to stifle me. And like, they would let me do a collab post with the women's team or give me opportunities to do sideline reporting on ESPN. And so I think that's a key is like, obviously everyone wants to go full time and do their own thing, but find a job that does let you be creative and pursue your passions as well.
Yeah. 2 more questions I have for you, Aliyah.
Awesome.
Right? For those, once again, entering the space who want to not only just build their own brand, but go all in, right? I get to work for myself full time, pay the bills this way. What would be your piece of advice to them?
This sounds crazy, but don't chase the bag. Like don't chase the money because that's just gonna, I don't know, I'm big into like energy, and I feel like if you chase the wrong thing and if people see that you're only in it for the money, and I know we all have to pay our bills, but I don't know, social media is one of those things where people can see right through you if you're only chasing it for the bag, and if you're like pushing, you know, like, oh, I need to pay my bills, support my content, like it doesn't come across genuine. So you gotta hustle. Like I'm not saying it's easy, like you gotta work the multiple jobs, and it is hard, but when you're chasing it because you genuinely love it, that's when the money will follow. And I was a little delusional about that for a few years. And, you know, there were some years where I'm like, okay, I'm just getting by. I mean, living in New York City is very expensive. So I'm like literally cutting it very close. But I was so passionate about it. And then like it just all fell into place.
Last question I got for you. If you had the chance to go to dinner with yourself at the start of your career, how do you think that conversation will go?
She'd be younger. Aliyah would be like, nah, you're lying. Like you're not for real. And I think, and then I would tell my younger self like, well, don't rush it because there's so many things that I miss from when I was starting out. I really miss Wichita. I miss, you know, my family's out there, but like looking back, some of the memories I have in Wichita, I'm like, I was so unhinged and like, I would do anything to kind of go back to being like that. So I would just be like, be patient because what you want, you will get it, but also enjoy what you're doing now.
Aliyah, I appreciate you.
Appreciate
Thank you
you
so much for being the first guest
I'm
on We Don't
honored.
Talk Hoops with Arden Franklyn. We should do a shoe toast.
Cheers.
Cheers,
I love
my
it.
friend. Handshakes and hugs to everyone involved with this. Seriously, we appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. We're very excited about this show. Again, this is an opportunity for you to connect and hear from your favorite people within the game of basketball. There's a lot of great stuff going on in the show. Once again, I'm your host, Arden Franklyn. Handshakes and hugs. Talk to you later.
Woo.
Sweet.
Good job, fam.
Cool.
That was
Excellent.
awesome. That was so fun.
Excellent.